Okay, we're live. All right, welcome everybody. My name is Matt Puckett. I'm the Executive Director of the Florida Police Benevolent Association, and I'm here with Rocco Salvatore. He is the Vice President of the Florida Professional Firefighters Association. Rocco, how you doing, man?
I'm good, Matt. How are you?
I'm doing all right. So for all of you that are wondering why are the two of us here doing a Zoom call, we want to talk to you guys about an issue that's been festering for like the last decade, and that is continued reform, if you want to use that term, of the Florida retirement system. If you don't mind, Rocco, I'll tee up a little bit of stuff and then turn the floor over to you. So I say
Sure.
something. Okay. So I say this is something that's been going on for like the last decade. And to me, and I know you and I have talked about this previously, Rocco, it kind of feels like 2011 again. We got a bad economy. We've got pension is now a topic that's moving, in the interim committee. There's no hostility really like there was in 2011. I mean, 2011, you were lucky to get in the door to talk to these guys about any of this stuff. But it does seem to me like we're reliving this from a decade ago. This effort in particular is being led by the Senate President, Wilton Simpson. For those of you that don't remember, Senator Simpson in his first year in the state Senate ran some pension legislation that joined with the Speaker of the House, Will Weatherford, at the time. This is about 2013. That legislation made it to the floor of the Senate, but that's where it stopped in its tracks. It was defeated there, or probably defeated in a temporarily postponed. And it's been temporarily postponed for the last 8 years. So it's no longer postponed. It is going to be up this Thursday. The first iteration will be in the Senate Government Oversight and Accountability Committee. That's chaired by Senator Ray Rodriguez, and he will also be the sponsor of the legislation. And he's taking the approach that we're going to do a full closure for new hires of the pension plan, and we'll move everyone into the investment plan after July 1, 2022. So that's obviously, for those of you that are already in the system, this won't affect you personally, but if you care about the overall health of the system, especially over an extended period of time, you should be concerned that a full closure is going to drive the costs up, and we could be talking about this for the next 15 to 20 years. So we are holding this call. So Rocco, I know you have a lot of thoughts on this. I'm going to turn it over to you.
Yeah, thanks, Matt. I mean, it sure does feel like 2011 all over again, especially, for our two groups. It's during those times, but back then when the Great Recession was hitting, we were able to do a lot of things at the local bargaining table to help some of our municipal plans, weather that storm and then leave that storm thriving, as most of the plans are today. I think it's a well-established fact that most of our municipal plans, because of the actions taken both at the bargaining table, at the pension board level, and frankly by a lot of municipalities during the recession, most of these plans are thriving today. And I sure would like the opportunity to do that with the FRS, even though the FRS is by and large thriving already. There is not some funding crisis at the FRS. It appears that every time there's a budget crisis, the FRS, becomes this target to help solve that crisis. And it's frustrating for me as somebody who cut my teeth bargaining at the local level to feel like sometimes we don't have that same opportunity to bargain to maybe help weather the budget storm. And pension can be a topic of that. But I know from our organization standpoint, we would really like the opportunity to have a seat at that table to help solve that. And I see you nodding your head. Our groups work together quite a bit since, as far as I can remember, as long as I've been in this business, we've worked closely together. That's time will tell whether we have that opportunity, but I sure hope we do, because, I think that it's really important that public safety employees, first responders, if you will, have an opportunity to continue to have a defined benefit plan.
And our organization feels the same way. The pillar of public safety is, I think, having, one is being safe, taking care of the membership and making sure they have all the equipment and safety measures in place. And then two, having a pension so that we can keep the best and the brightest in the profession. And that's one of the risks that we constantly talk about and worry about, is that if you lose that guarantee at the end of the career, you're going to lose a lot of people that just don't want to put themselves through the rigors of being a firefighter or a police officer or a correctional officer. It becomes a lot easier to leave the job when there's not that pension waiting at the end of the career. So that's going to be our overarching philosophy. I know, after working with you for so many years, and I think that's probably something we should note, that we did work together on local pensions. I think it's 6 years now, so it's getting down the road a little bit. But we were able to find common ground with an organization, the Florida League of Cities, that had been hostile to us for 15 years, and prior to that, had been hostile to both of our organizations. But we were able to sit in a room and really lay out the facts, and we got a product that I think we all left proud of. At least, maybe not everybody was completely happy, but we were proud of it. And we haven't had to deal with that since then. And I agree with you. I'd like to put this FRS issue to rest as much as possible. I think 10 years, this is like the sword of Damocles hanging over our head year after year after year. We've always got this threat. It puts our members under stress when the legislature comes into session. They're under stress. I've heard from multiple members just in the last 2 weeks, since we started kind of communicating with them about what was on the horizon. I've answered a lot of emails and phone calls about, well, what does this mean for me? I don't think it's an unknown. It's not going to affect anybody, active personally, but, it might if the system really starts to struggle. So let's kind of start there. The bill that's being presented Thursday is a concept of 8 concepts that the Senate is studying. And, you and I have talked about this a lot offline. I've talked about this with several legislators and a lot of the executive members of the PBA. There are a couple of concepts that are worth exploring, in my opinion, a little further. And when I say that, I say that in what's being proposed on Thursday is a full closure of the pension plan, which is just a non-starter for us. We're never going to be able to say yes to something like that. But if we could come up with some concept that kept the pension plan open, then we're far more likely to sit down and see what else can occur during that time. And I'll kind of leave it at that, because I don't want to get us out on a limb that breaks.
Right. Yeah, I agree with that. And, a good example of that is, let's even talk in broader terms about, making changes to a pension plan. Changes happen to pension plans, right? Over the decades and centuries that pension plans have been around, changes happen for the better and for the worse sometimes. But, an example I think of as a change that was made that has become nearly impossible for us to undo now is what the legislature did to the cost of living adjustment. There could have been all kinds of other money saving changes made during that rough budget time that would have been much easier to walk back as time goes on. And I think completely closing the pension plan makes it, once again, another change that's extremely difficult to walk back as time goes on. And so we're going to be fighting to keep that pension plan open too, for sure.
Yeah, I think that's going to be universally agreed to, that keeping the pension plan open, even for new hires in some capacity, is going to be the primary focus. And I couldn't agree with you more. The The suspension that is turned into a 10-year suspension of the COLA is draconian. I know you've said it a number of times and it bears repeating. It punishes people for working. So the longer you work, the worse your COLA gets. and that's counterintuitive to why we even have this in existence. It punishes longevity. I don't believe when it was done in 2011 that it was done with that in mind, but that's been the end result. And that's, I know we kind of, or I kind of made the tongue-in-cheek remark that this reminds me of 2011. There's a big difference here. They've studied this. This has been thought about for quite a while. They've got concepts on the table. In 2011, it was just throw a bunch of really horrible stuff against the wall, and then behind closed doors, a handful of leaders made a decision, and one of them was just to cut the pension or cut the COLA for the pension. There's been some subsequent, issues that have happened. 2017, there was the default change for everyone but special risk. So, and I know our organizations were involved in that too. There were some changes to the death benefit. There was a fix for reemployment if you're in the investment plan. So there have been some kind of nominal changes. I wouldn't call the default a nominal change, but there have been some other issues. But this one seems pretty big, and you got to take the temperature of what's going on right now. I mean, we are not allowed in the Senate. You can't even go in the building. So what we're doing right now is how we're communicating, unless we're meeting with everyone off campus, which we've been fortunate enough to do. But to actually put a lobbying effort together, you're going to be at the Civic Center, staring into a screen like we're doing right now, trying to lay a case out. And that's not going to work. So I feel like we've got to at least have some skin in the game and get at the table. So do you want to walk through these concepts? I know there's 8 of them, and we can, certainly pull those down. So you've got the first 2, and the one that's going to be popping up Thursday is considered concept 1, which interestingly enough is going to be the most difficult one for the actuary to study and get the results back. According to this letter, concepts 1 and concepts 2, which is a variation of concept 1, they won't be due back until middle of March 17th. So what concept 1 does is I think pretty simple. It closes the pension plan to all new hires after July 1, 2022. They would be compulsory members of the investment plan, tier 2 and tier 1 employees, and that's everyone that was hired prior to that July 1st, 2022 date, would still be able to stay in the plan that they're in. But that's a closure of the plan, and that is I don't even know if I would call it a soft close, but it will certainly change the dynamic over time, and it'll change what it takes to continue to adequately fund the pension side of things. So, we're probably talking. Yeah,
I think.
Go ahead.
I think it's important to mention that if you remember the last time they studied these, draconian closure where they truly just closed it completely to new employees, the funding changes were pretty dramatic, and in some cases it'll be very interesting to see what this actuarial study says about it, because in some cases the costs actually went up for several years. It made the plan more expensive, which begs the question, why?
Right. I mean, that's really counterintuitive to what they say they're trying to do. Use that word a lot. I'm gonna quit saying it. Yeah, I think, and I don't have that study in front of me, but I think it was like for the first 15 years, it just flat out destroyed the budgets. And then maybe after the 15 years, you're a bit on the downslope at that time. And I know you guys are experiencing this on the fire side, the same that we're experiencing in law enforcement corrections. We're having a issue just hiring people. So the numbers are not dramatically increasing. So that offset that's there, I don't know how long that lasts. The second component to that, which is concept 2, is that same idea with a basically a carve out, for lack of a better term, for special risk. Special risk, even the new hires after July 1st, 2022 would still be allowed to enter the pension plan. So it wouldn't completely, in concept two, it wouldn't completely close the pension plan, which we all agreed is something that we're still open-minded to. Now, we're a very small portion, our two memberships are a small portion of the overall FRS. So it's still a pretty massive closure of the system with a minor exception for the special risk. So, the costs of that are still going to be, I think, in the very near term, pretty expensive. You want to break down the next two concepts, 3 and 4?
Sure. And, I think it is, it also is worth mentioning too, that I know your organization and ours continues to represent members that are in the regular risk of the Florida retirement system too. So, it's not like we're blessed with the ability to look at this only through a special risk lens. Of course, the vast majority of our membership are members of the special risk, that are members that are in the FRS, but we still represent members that are not, and we're gonna represent their retirement interests as well, as I know you are too.
Yeah, thanks for making that point. That's noted and much appreciated.
And then, when we get to the concept 3 of closing the FRS plan to non-grandfathered future enrollees, and then offering a choice between enrollment in the investment and then a partially self-directed cash balance plan. Now, that's a term a lot of our members may not be familiar with, and frankly, it's something that I still have to research quite a bit, because a cash balance plan is not an extremely popular form of a retirement system. And that's coming from somebody, I've been a pension trustee. I've been in the pension world my entire career. Although, people hear cash balance, they may be attracted to that. I think the devil's in the proverbial details of exactly how that looks. And then again, they study it with special risk, for lack of a better term, carved out,
right?
Which would be that's concept 4, right?
Yeah, that's concept 4. So I think the big takeaway for 3 and 4 is that cash balance plan still means closure of the pension plan. A cash balance plan is an investment plan. There's just a nominal guaranteed rate of return if the SBA is directing this, and I think that actually pivots into 5 and 6, where it drills down on a cash balance plan that is not totally self-directed. It's the SBA directed investments could have between a 2 and a 5% guaranteed rate of return. And what I've found interesting in the actuaries kind of letter back to the Senate is they're going to look at all of these with 7% rate of return as kind of the baseline, but then they're going to go down 2% and up 2%. So the higher up they go, so when you're earning 9%, the payout and the payment that they'll have to put in to maintain, say a 3 to 5 rate of return will be a lot less. My guess is this is probably the option they're most intrigued by.
Right.
It gets them where they want to be, a closure, and they can use this guaranteed rate of return as a bit of a carrot, but it's still a closure. And even with both options 4 and option 6 allowing for special risk to remain in the pension plan, I think again it's probably got a 15 to 20 year detrimental effect on governments and employees as far as what they'll have to pay to maintain this.
Right. And then with that detrimental effect, we have to wonder, even if the investment side of these ideas becomes attractive, which, by the way, we could have a whole nother call on whether or not the investment plan right now is currently attractive to an employee, right. Whether or not one of our members could actually save enough to retire right. through the investment plan alone. That's an entirely different argument. But even if it was attractive, do these ideas increase costs enough over the coming decades to put a target on that then?
Right.
And so, even if the math you know, and we're always going to advocate for a defined benefit plan for our members. We think the risk of a short career is too great to not have a defined benefit plan. Of course, we're willing to talk about what that defined benefit plan, you know, entails, but even if that investment plan is so attractive that the math works out for an individual member in their head, I just don't know if I could say to them with any certainty that closing the plan, the effects of closing the plan wouldn't put that then in jeopardy in the years to come.
Right, right. So having said all that, the last two concepts, 7 and 8, this is the one that you know, I'm probably the most intrigued by, because it does a couple of things. And full disclosure, we talked over the summer and really since March, maybe even the last 8 years, about where could we find some common ground with people that want to move to strictly investment, but we could keep a pension, and hybrid continues to pop up. There's this hybrid concept out there. We talked about some bad ideas over the summer and we backed away. But I don't know if this is such a bad idea, what they're talking about with the consolidated plan. And so let me, if you don't mind, I'll try to elaborate on that, and then you can chime in at any point. This consolidated plan would be a hybrid, and the way it would work is, as an employee, you're putting 3% in towards your costs. Instead of putting that 3% towards the pension cost, your 3% would be after July 1st, 2022, if you're a new employee. So again, I just want to make this clear to everybody. If you're currently watching this and you're employed, this doesn't apply to you. But if you're watching this and you're not employed, wow. You are amazing, and I'm sorry.
An innovator.
Yeah. You should have better things to do than watch the two of us talk about this. But maybe you're just trying to get your research down before you make a decision about your career. So that would be awesome. But anyway, you would divert your 3% into a self-directed investment account, and then your employer would pay for the pension portion. Now, obviously, that pension portion is not going to be anywhere close to what it is right now when full benefit is going in. And the unknown of all this is what that's actually going to look like, because we're talking about, I don't know if they're going to freeze the rate and keep it perpetually at the current statutory required rate of 2021. Which I forget off the top of my head. I think we're talking like 14% right now for special risk, maybe a little higher when you throw in the UAL.
Yeah, and isn't 3 of that our members' own money? Isn't it 11 coming from the employer?
It might be. It might be. I'd have to go back and look. I don't think it's quite that low. I think it's a little higher, but you know, there's all the peel offs too. So you know, with the UAL
right.
And everything. But anyway, it's certainly not enough to fund a 30-year career at 90%, which is the current Tier 2 requirement. So it's going to be something a little less, but it does keep the pension plan in a form open. And you know, from their standpoint, if I'm looking at it and I'm putting myself in their shoes, this is a smart way to do it, because you've got some stability there with the pension side of it. And then somebody's going to sit there and watch their 3% contribution, and they're going to get, you know, like last year, maybe even this year, they're going to see some decent returns, and they're going to go, man, if I was putting 10% in there, if I was putting 15% in there, look what I'd be doing right now. And you're probably going to have a lot of people migrate over. So it's a win situation in that regard for everybody. They get to keep the investment plan, you know, open, and they also have now this little teaser so that some people get a taste of the investment plan. We get to keep the pension plan open, and if this breaks the system, it's not completely broken. It's not like what we're dealing with the COLA, where it's just shut off and it's $1 billion to get it back up. You just really have to take the money and divert back over to a system that's still open. And in concept 8, special risk would still be allowed to do full participation in the pension plan. So each one of these 4 concepts has a carve out for special risk, which, you know, is much appreciated. You got anything to add on?
Of course. So I mean, hybrid can be a bad word depending on what it looks like. But I mean, the FRS has a hybrid plan in it right now, and I don't. Our organization is not opposed to that option being available. A lot of people don't know about it. It's seldom utilized, but currently the FRS has a hybrid plan in place that I would argue is a fair plan. So, I guess we're a little bit hesitant on the hybrid because we really have real strong feelings about a defined benefit plan and the retirement security that it provides, especially with the shorter careers, for different reasons, but for the same effect as your members in law enforcement. Our firefighters can't do this forever. You can't chase people down the street with a gun belt on. You can't, bust in doors and put out fires, into your 60s and 70s either. So, we want to make sure that's there. And I guess if that retirement security could be provided through a hybrid system, it's certainly something we consider, exploring for sure.
Us too. So look, looks like we're about to run out of time. So how about maybe we do this again? I like it. We'll see how popular it is with the membership. But we're going to know something on Thursday. I don't think it's a major leap to say it's going to pass that committee that it's going through. It's the chair's bill. But it's probably not going to remain in this form. There's a strong likelihood that there'll be momentum to do something else. The House at this time is not currently talking about doing anything. So, it takes two to tango, and then you still got to get it, signed into law by the governor. So this thing has a long way to go. We've talked about what we could maybe claw back that was taken away, the COLA, the years of service, the age. I know a lot of people would like to see the drop, go back to the 6.5. And then I don't know if you have the same issue that the Florida PBA has with our membership, but we have a lot of members that are trapped in their eyes in the investment plan that would like another stab at getting back into the pension plan. So, all those are things that we would like to put on the table in discussions with the Senate. So, you got anything to say?
We have people in all of the same boats. I would say, as an organization, if I had to prioritize our goals with the Florida retirement system, it really is still those changes made in 2011. We've got to figure out a way to get our post 2011 hire some type of cost of living adjustment, something, some way to keep up with the cost of living in their most vulnerable years, frankly. And then, the other problem that's going to come home to roost soon is the age and years of service change made. Certainly we're going to have firefighters, law enforcement officers, paramedics, corrections officers that feel like they're probably getting to the age where, to quote the guys in Lethal Weapon, I'm getting too old for this stuff, right? Only they didn't say stuff.
They did say stuff.
Yeah, they're gonna feel like they're getting too old for this, yet they can't retire. And right. The host of problems that's going to cause in the workplace are just beginning to present themselves, and I think that's going to get worse and worse and worse in the coming years. So. Yeah. Anything we can do to put those two things on the table, we're going to discuss, as long as it doesn't hurt the overall system.
Yeah. Well, I think we're all in agreement there. So let's make a pact to revisit this. I know you and I will talk quite a bit, but I think this might be a good thing to have this kind of discussion, and maybe we can bring in some other people, that can enlighten us on some other concepts that maybe we haven't seen yet within these 8 concepts, or some other ideas within these 8 concepts that, we're not seeing at the moment. Rocco, I thank you, man. You're always a pleasure to talk to. Don't be a stranger.
You either. Thank you, Matt. I appreciate it and look forward to doing it again.
Okay. Take care, brother.